Hey everybody, I'm Idiot Big and this is Backgammon Made Complicated. All right, so we've got ourselves a bot. We are ready to start playing, but we're not going to start playing matches immediately. So that leaves us with money play. And today we're going to go through a couple of money games, but more importantly, we're going to go through how we're going to analyze the games afterwards to understand more about not just what we got wrong, but why we got it wrong. So let's go ahead and start ourselves a new session. I'm going to create new unlimited games, playing against XG Roller. This is in Iron Man mode, so we're not going to have any kind of hints to help us along the way. There is going to be a clock where we're going to have 1 minute to complete the game with a 10-second delay between moves. All right, fortunately, I get an easy one to start off with. And XG throws an appropriate reply. 4-2. I can come out to the 18 point. I can slot the 11. Try unstacking. And 4-3 lets us clean up. You'll see that XG is taking some time to think through things. It's on the highest setting, plus plus. So it is going to spend a few seconds evaluating options. And when things are more complex or in the early game, that can end up taking a little bit longer. Not sure about 13-8. I mean, my opponent does have two blots in his inner board. Diversifying by playing 6-5 might have been better. But here we get to start a new point and diversify anyways. And XG plays passively. All right. Now, if I play 13-8, I don't have a comfortable 4. But if I play 8-3, like I want to slot the 9 point, it feels a little bit too dangerous. Now, XG has its board made. 5-2. Can't make a good point, so I'll get my builder back onto the 6. And now XG has a choice. All right. Got a decent racing lead. May have already lost my market. But XG takes. I can choose whether to hit loose. Just clean up. This time limit is tighter than I was expecting. Uh, just to fill in my board here. I split with the aces earlier. 6. And now I guess I can hit with the 2. Like, I do want to close out. There are some gammon chances, and it's kind of easy for me to re-enter after I get hit. It pays off. 5 rips, and the 3 is awkward if we bear off. Still want to try to rip off a checker with the doubles, even though it doesn't give me an odd number off. I still want to try to work my way to get a gammon, even though the chances aren't great. And now they're nil, and I'll just get the single win here. XG concedes. And now let's go back and take a look and see what happened. Okay, so there were a couple of things that gave us pause here. So it's useful to go back and review all of the plays that you made over the course of a game or a match when you're reviewing things. Just reviewing the errors has value, but not as much value because there could be plays that you got right and you didn't know why. You could want to look at the opponent's plays. You might want to be thinking more about cube actions leading up to a certain point. Those are the kinds of things that simply speeding ahead and looking at the errors only won't give you the kind of granularity and context you need for a more thorough sort of analysis. All right, so we started off by making the 5 point, and XG makes the 21 and the 10. And then we had our first 4-2, and I should have a better handle on these sorts of things, but second or third roll plays are big leaks for me, and this one's no exception. Um, my opponent doesn't want to make the bar point; they want to make the 5 point, and I left a checker in the place where it most wants to make it. So it's going to put its checkers there anyways. I'm not doing myself many favors by putting my own blots there. And then I clean up with 4-3. XG starts the board with 6-2. And yeah, again, I was thinking about playing 13-9, 6-5, but I was worried that getting hit in the outfield was uh, was going to hurt too much. So now this is an error that I want to learn more about. So I've got a second copy of XG open right here. And if I go through plays like this, whoops, get that checker back there. When I go through plays like this, one of the ways that I like to learn is just by messing around with the position and editing it, not from where it was, to develop a position where the play I made over the board would have been right. In other words, I'm sort of thinking about, well, what would have had to have occurred in order for the play I wanted to be right. So let's take the position that we had and instead just simply give XG making the 4 point instead of having two blots. How does that look now? I shouldn't have put the analysis through that deep. There we go. Okay. So here we are. Now, when XG has the 4 point made, now playing safely, there's a higher premium because those return shots are going to be much more potent. I'm facing a 2 point board. I'm facing a bigger prime. I'm facing more builders. Um, let's see. What if XG had 3 point instead of the 4 point? I keep doing this. Sorry. The analysis. By default, when I'm going through my own play, I just sort of tend to default to plus plus, and it ends up taking way too long. Okay, so now we've still got some safe plays that are coming out well on top. And the play that came out is over the board with the actual position we had is still a significant error, 0.05 back. Well, what happens if we move XG to the 2 point instead? Do we still have some of those fears about how potent those return shots for XG are? And now if we move back to the 2 point, I'm guessing that probably playing 13-9, 6-5 comes out a little bit ahead. No, it doesn't yet, but it is getting closer. Now it sits only 0.025 back. So now it sits, saying some extra flexibility is worth thinking about, although still not ultimately correct with this kind of a structure. And lastly, let's go ahead and give XG the ace point instead. And 9-5 gets a little bit better, but still not best. Okay, So I learned something interesting, and here in the early game when I'm facing a 2 point board versus a 2 point board, and we both have advanced anchors. Um, it's not a good idea to create unnecessary blots in the outfield. But when there's just that 1 point board, and in this case, a couple of blots in the inner board as well, now there's no real risk, and I can prioritize developing my own board over, worrying about getting hit. All right, let's go back to the game. XG throws 5-4 again, just starting to build the board a little bit more. I play a 5-1, starting to build my board. Nothing terribly exciting happens for a few rolls. Yeah, here I wanted to play 13-9 and 8-3, but it ends up being a small error. And again, like that's so here I was definitely afraid of a 3 point board. But that blot, means that we can be a little bit more loose than normal, but not enough to prioritize simply making a safe play. XG moves two checkers home with 6-4. I get a builder back on the 6 point again with 5-2. And a 6-1 from XG adds another builder to the 6. I get one of my best rolls. XG is still able to enter. And now I thought I was good enough to double this, and it's pretty close, but I don't have tons of G's. Like, starting off, I have less gammons here than I would at the beginning of a game. So if that's going to happen, I need more winning chances than I normally would. And if I had, just a few more gammons here, even like 15, 16%, I could still double with 65% winning chances. Um, let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Is there any way that we might be able to tidy up this position to make it a little bit more favorable for us? So I guess one thing is, what if we just simply have a safer position? It doesn't help us too much. What if we've got something a little bit more functional where we're blocking some of the sixes instead? This probably feels like, oh, this still isn't a double. Okay, interesting. Does having an advanced anchor in the outfield make a difference? Okay. That even reduces my gammons a little bit more. I dropped about 1.5%, but I increased over 5% winning chances. So because I need two single wins for every gammon that we're accounting for, that's more than enough here. And it's enough to push this into a thin double. I wonder if XG's anchor makes a difference. Like if we just switch things up to the 3 point instead of the 4 point. Oh yeah, now we've got a very, very solid double. And while still a take, it's still fairly close here. And I'm sure if we move this back even further and moved XG to the 2 point, yep, now it's just a huge pass. We'll give XG a little bit more safety here. Doesn't make a ton of difference. What matters here is the anchor. That advanced anchor on the 4 point was very, very valuable in context to this position and a lot of other positions as well. This is this is still a take. Wow, that's interesting. Okay. So clearly I had some work to do because I was thinking spots like this might be a pass. And if I think that's a pass, then, I've got some extra market losers here with 6-5. But as it turns out, this was a little too zealous and about a 0.05 error to double. 4-1, I just consolidate things a little bit. XG plays 4-3. I extricate with my back two men. It's important to do even with all the extra shots that are out there. Now, double threes. I was running short on time. I didn't get a lot of time to look at something like this. I can see how playing 12 to 3 and 8 to 5 gives us plenty of outfield coverage. XG would have to use their whole roll to hit, even if they did hit us in the outfield, and we'd still have a bunch of return shots. That 1 minute time limit was pretty tight. I don't recommend playing with time limits if you're just starting out. It's something I probably should have configured differently before I started. XG moves or overloads the ace point with its 4-1, and then I incurred way too much risk here. I'm giving up a whole bunch more losses and a couple extra gammon wins by coming to the 11 point. Instead, I should just keep some outfield coverage by staying back on the 16 and using my 5 to move from the 8 point instead. I'm not going to mess around with that one because I feel like I have a good handle on the position. In that case, that was just, an oversight. It was an oversight because I was low on time, but an important lesson for me to learn anyway. After 3-1, again, yeah, the 11 to 8, splitting with or using the ace on one of the points that's past your opponent's anchor is a very safe play. And because I'm up in the race by 6 pips, but also have many fewer crossovers to get home, I'm looking for plays that make it easy for me to bring the position home. And from here, it's all fairly straightforward. Let's see. Nothing else. Yeah. Rather just need to make the important distinction to hit. Okay, so here's a case where we got one right, but we can still go around and mess that up as well. Is there a time where hitting might not be right? So what if XG has a 5 point board here? Well, now instead of a 300 error for not hitting, it's about half of that. And if we go back, we make this a full closeout. Yeah, now hitting ends up being the enormous blunder, whereas the safest play of 8 to 2, 5 to 3 works best. So that makes a bunch of sense. So going back and editing the positions you get wrong, and not just the ones you get wrong, but the ones that you get right as well, can also be a useful part of your analysis because you can go back and say, yeah, that play um, I knew it was right there, but like under what conditions might it not be right? And here it's pretty straightforward. If the opponent has either a closed board or a 6 prime, you're not going to want to make the loose hit. Otherwise, you can go ahead. Well, actually, you know what? Let's try one last variant. Let's give XG a 5 point board with some builders aimed at the ace. And now, yep, sure enough, safe plays right. So really, I shouldn't say 6 prime. You need a closed board or some kind of threatening prime from the opponent not to want to hit here with the deuce. But that's what your play and your analysis should be like. You're going to want to go through and you're going to want to, in addition to relishing all the genius plays you made where everything ended up being exactly right, you're going to want to go back and understand, okay, well, why is this wrong? Why might other alternatives have done better? And why was the right play the best play? And XG doesn't give us that. But what we can do is take that position and just make small edits because even a pip's worth of difference can radically change a wide swath of positions. And that's something that you can leverage to improve your play. So when you make errors, go in and mess them up and mess them up more and find different positions so that you're understanding not just the position that you're looking at, but anything that's kind of close to it. The more changes you make, the more analyses you get about variance from what you're looking at, the more that you have a thorough and contextual understanding. And that's what it's about. By understanding more about the kinds of positions you're seeing, you're going to be better suited to handle them the next time. So until next time, get in there, start making plays, mess them up, and then mess them up even more. We'll see you next time.